Yeah.
The fun one.
So
We are
yeah,
here. We made
we
it.
are here. Yeah, we made it. We did it. We made it all the way to Tuesday.
We made it here to talk about Uncle Andrew's browser history.
Oh yeah.
Because let's be honest, if he lived in 2023, you know it would be weird.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
this guy is such a
He's a
creep.
weirdo.
Such a creep.
Yeah, I think I'm only on chapter 2. Chapter 2? Yeah.
Mm, hmm
I'm on chapter 2 and
Yeah.
well, first off, I completely forgot about Uncle Andrew. But as soon as like they even talked about him, I was like, "Oh yeah, this guy. I remember." So, yeah, I forgot how just uncomfortable he makes you.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
It's
which
funny because I haven't read it since third grade, and my copy's still not
yeah,
here, so I should start hopefully being able to read this week. But that's something I remember the most from reading it way back in third grade was like Uncle Andrew was a creep. Like,
he's a creepy dude. I also there was
Yeah.
a I think it was in the first chapter. Yeah, it had to have been. There was a line where he says something like he's talking to Polly, and he says something like, um, I could just go get the book. Sorry if you can hear like banging in the background. They're literally replacing our roof on
I can't hear it, but
on
I'm
our
sorry you
building,
can.
and it's just like sounds like, I mean, there's like a bunch of dudes up there stomping around on the roof, so it's so loud. Um, I'm glad you can't hear it though.
Mm-mm.
I might have to just go get the book because I honestly like can't remember how it was, but it was something
Yeah.
like he was like, "Oh, you're like a little girl, especially one so pretty as you," and it was just like,
Oh, I
that's
remember
so
that
creepy,
line.
dude.
I remember that line.
Like
Yeah, I
you're
remember
like a
reading that.
50-year-old man or something,
Yes.
and talking to
Yeah.
like probably a
Yep.
12-year-old girl,
Yeah.
and I don't remember that line or last time I read it, which probably would
hmm
have been like middle school or high school. And so I don't know if maybe it was just like the age that I read it, but now reading it in my 30s is like, look, men who are that age or just adult men at any age should not be saying that to any girl who
Yes.
is like
Yeah.
not their father, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know her exact age, but I
I don't
feel like
know
she's
either.
about
I feel like
10
she's
or
probably,
11.
I was thinking, yeah, I think even more like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I don't think they're any younger than that, but I don't think they're
Yeah.
any older than like 12.
And I had a really similar reaction hitting that line in the book where it's like, "Oh, I didn't expect such a beautiful young woman to enter my study
Yeah,
late at night." And I was like, "Yo, what is
dude,
going on? Like,
I know.
excuse me?
hold
What is
on.
happening?"
If Dickory wasn't there, what would be happening right now? Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think last week I stopped by your cubicle and I was like, the that like era of British literature where it seems like children are disposable. It felt like this like common theme or like thread that ran through a lot of those stories, like Matilda,
Yeah.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. uh like children are just, they go to this factory and they just start disappearing. Where do they go? Nobody knows. They're just being murdered by this guy. And yeah, I had that feeling too, of like just like this, like at the time that those books were written, people just valued children less, if that makes sense. What do
No,
you
I
think,
kind
Thomas?
of, oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think. children were expected different things of them,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
you are seen and not heard, you act this way,
Yes.
don't
Yep.
act
Yep.
outside of that, like at your
Right.
own peril.
Exactly.
And also
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
life is hard and a bunch of y'all don't survive, so that's just a thing.
Yep.
There were
um
also literally less like children's rights as well, like as far as laws
Yeah.
go too,
Yeah.
like child labor and
Yep.
yeah, your
uh
child was expected to help you with your industry, like that
right.
was a
Yeah.
thing. And I also think that there's this like weird like misogyny to like young kids, like, oh, like look at like your strong boys, they'll like grow up and be strong men and help you out, and your girls, they're
Right.
pretty. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
and that was kind of like the way it was looked at back then.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if when C.S. Lewis wrote this, because like I feel like it was written for children, so it was supposed to help, like,
Yeah.
give you
Yeah.
something to relate to. So the idea that your family and like the adult figures in your life don't give you the time of day, I think it's supposed to put like, the young mid 20th century kid like into the book. They're like, yeah, like adults don't care about me. Like I want to read this book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially I don't know. I don't even know if I was gonna say especially maybe well there was no middle class. um I was gonna say maybe dependent on the class, but I kind of feel like it doesn't really matter what class it was.
And
It
I
was
guess, I
either
mean,
like
when was
you
it?
were wealthy,
1955. Yeah.
so well the book was published in 1955, but at least Magician's Nephew is set in like
Turn of the century
late
or like a little
18
bit later.
late
Yeah.
1800s or
Earlier.
early 1900s because it
Yeah.
there's something in the beginning where it says like it's
Yep.
actually I think it's like the first page where it's like this is a story
Yep.
about like when your grandfather was a
Mm-hmm.
kid, which in 1955 would have been
Yep.
like our great grandfathers really
Interesting.
more.
Yeah.
And it says something else like this was a time when Sherlock Holmes was still running
Yep.
around and
Yep.
whatever. So that
Sherlock
sort of
Holmes.
gives you the idea of when the time period
Yeah.
actually is taking place. Um so
It.
yeah, I think if you're reading it as a kid, especially in 1955, you're still relating to like, oh yeah, I'm like just supposed to shut
Mhm.
up and like I don't even exist until my parents talk to me kind of thing,
Yeah.
because they definitely are like the Narnia books are children's like novels basically. Like when I went to Barnes and Noble over the weekend and I bought just like a couple of them and I had to go to the kids section to even pull them from the shelf.
Oh,
So
interesting.
Really.
yeah,
Really.
yeah.
That is
So
interesting.
Yeah. If it doesn't arrive tomorrow, I I might just go buy it again. I think I paid like
$2.
$5 for it. Like,
Yeah, they weren't. I mean, they're paperback and they're like not very long books anyway. I don't have
Yeah.
the Magician's Nephew in front of me, but I really like the covers of these, like the
Yeah.
illustration. Like here's Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. In the
oh yeah,
wardrobe.
that's great.
It's really cool. It's really
Oh.
pretty.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Um, but I'll go back and get like the other ones. Anyway, they were
To
like $15 for
Oh,
those
that's
at
not
I mean
bad.
at Barnes and Noble. Obviously you could get them cheaper, but
I needed to, well, I wanted to change the cabin filter on my Toyota. So I ordered a new cabin filter and it was like $10. It was like, if you spend 15 more dollars, you get free shipping. And I was like, okay, you're gonna twist my
okay.
arm. And then I
Yeah.
got like 30 Stephen King books
Oh my gosh.
so that I could get over the $25 limit so I would get free shipping.
Amazing. Yeah,
Nice.
that's worth it.
I
That's worth it.
Yeah. So that happened.
What was this
But
from?
this was on Amazon. This is on
Hmm.
Amazon. I needed $25 worth of goods to get free shipping.
Nice. That's awesome.
Did what I thought was interesting is kind of to go along with Christie's thought, where he sets the time period by talking about Sherlock Holmes still on Baker Street, but then he also lists the Bastables. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
I didn't even know what that
Hmm.
was, and I
Yep.
of course
Yep.
didn't go Google it which I should have. But I'm assuming you did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I was like, what is that? And so it was published in 1899, and it's
Okay.
about these little kids that try to find treasure,
Oh my gosh.
but it never works. And they go on all these crazy adventures like fighting bandits, marry a princess, invent medicine, rescue a rich gentleman,
Wait, they
but
invent medicine?
nothing. Yes, they
My
invent
gosh.
and patent a new medicine.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
These are prodigies over here.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And uh and I was just fascinated that so the Bastables, like the adventures of these crazy treasure seeking children, actually was the influence on C.S. Lewis when he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. So that's probably why
Interesting.
he,
Oh, okay. Why he
yeah,
chose children to sort of be the
exactly,
ones that have these
exactly.
experiences. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I could
And
see that.
the creator of Harry Potter also lists the Bastables as
Oh,
some of her favorite books of all time.
interesting.
Yeah, so these books that first came out in like 1899 impacted C.S. Lewis, impacted J.K. Rowling. It was just really, really interesting to me.
I've never
Um,
heard of it,
I
except
have
for the one time I read the
never
book and didn't research it.
yeah,
I have never heard of it either. And I'm sure I came across it as a kid and was like, I don't know what that is, and kept reading. Which is exactly what I did over the weekend when I came. I was like, I know what Sherlock Holmes is, but I don't know what this is. I assumed it was like some series of books that exist in
yeah,
real life.
yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I was just like, I don't know what that is, and I didn't remember it from the last time that I read. So
I'm
that's really
like
cool, though.
I'm really
I'm
excited
like
about reading
Wikipedia.
through it, and I want to read through this too because I just recently reread the Magician series by Lev Grossman, and
Mm.
it's like an adult version of Chronicles of Narnia,
Hmm,
um, where like kids go to a like university for magic after high school,
Oh,
and they discover a secret world, and there's like a Uncle Andrew character who wrote books called Fillory and Further, and they find the magical land of Fillory, and then they like realized that the person that wrote the books, like the kids that he was writing about, were actually doing this and coming back and telling him the stories. Um,
interesting.
but it's a very adult take on it. So and like the uncle is
Hmm.
like a criminal, like child molester, and that's
ah,
Oh
like
God.
something,
Oh
yeah.
God.
And that's a plot point in
oh my
Ooh.
gosh.
the book a bit.
Ooh.
Not like lingered on, or like nothing is like shown. It's like just something that like they realize has happened. um
Yeah.
it's I'm really excited to go back and read these books and kind of see, because I know that book series was inspired by all of these ones, like the ones that we read.
Right.
Interesting.
It's really cool to like see the like a dark adult version versus like the source
Yeah.
material that's like happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true because you could just based on how creepy Uncle Andrew is, you wouldn't be surprised to learn if it was written into the story that he is like this creepy child molester. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
know that. We don't know that. He could just be making weird comments about little girls and
think he's
how pretty they are,
we'll stick
and
with just a weirdo.
just be that kind of weirdo, or he could be
That's enough.
yeah. But it's also C.S. Lewis writing for a children's audience, so he's not gonna put that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. I I didn't expect to like it as much as I'm enjoying it, really. Because Chronicles of Narnia, I saw both of you react to it in a way that really surprised me because both of you started kind of like feeding off each other's energy. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, do you remember this character? Do you remember this character? Oh, this part was really cool. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
And I saw the excitement between both of you. And that kind of surprised me because I just picked it up from the store as like just kind of like a throwaway, like,
Yeah. I
oh,
mean,
seven
it's a
books.
classic, so yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought. It's a classic, 7 books, $10. That's a really good value. Let me just pick it up randomly. I
Yeah.
haven't really read it before. But then I saw like your reaction to it, which then made me want to read it. And then now that I'm up to chapter 6 or 7 and I've
Mhm.
gotten that far, now it's like clicked for me. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it was like
why."
my first introduction into Magic Worlds
Yes.
like this. It's
Yeah,
super special.
actually,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
that's probably my first sort of like fantasy magic world type series that I ever read as well.
Aw.
Uh, so yeah, that was kind of my first introduction to that type of story. And yeah, they really it's interesting. I was reading a little bit last night, and I was thinking for such like short books, there is so much that happens, but it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's like packed too much,
Fast. Yeah.
but it does and it doesn't feel too fast either, at least not in my memory. I'm only on
Mhm.
chapter 2, so but it
Yeah.
it always felt like it was paced well, but
Yes.
like it also
Yeah.
didn't feel like, oh, that was too short of a book, but because a lot does happen, and it's just it's really good. So
Yeah. It's so visual, like
yeah.
visually
Yeah.
very cinematic. Like I can feel like a movie going on. What is that? Is that a Kit Kat?
The cheese.
Oh yeah, that's
I
also
was
good.
brought cheese.
You were
Delicious.
brought to Justin just like slip it on the desk.
I love that. Thank you, Justin.
That's so cute.
Um just like visually when they end up in that world between worlds with all the whirlpools that like take you to other like realities and then
Yeah.
these trees and like both of the children like just kind of wash up there on the shore and there's like a guinea pig just kind of like spinning in circles like where am I and Diggory's like how did we get here, let's
Yeah.
just hang out here, we don't really need to do anything, where did we come from, and it's just visually so impactful. And
Yeah.
even though it's a children's story, like there were paragraphs and lines that I read in the story that like impacted me, where
Yeah.
I wanted to like clip it and send it to you guys in the chat, but I didn't because like both of you guys seem stressed out and busy. But it literally made like an impact on me because I at one point I ran over to Christy's cubicle and I was like, this concept of all these different portals to
Mm.
other realities, it gave me like a Dark Tower vibe to it.
Mhm.
And um so they go into this other world and there's like a bell that you can ring with a hammer and
Yeah.
there's all these people that are like frozen in time
Yeah.
almost at like a dinner table kind of,
I remember imagining it sort of almost like a round table, like almost like a knight's
Oh,
table,
okay.
sort of. I don't know if that's actually
No, that
that's
sounds
just how
better.
my kid memory is thinking of it. Well, no, because it wasn't it sort of like they were. It was almost not stadium seating, but sort of like there was something down in the middle. I don't know. That's how I
No,
remember.
your
I don't
explanation
know.
probably makes more sense.
I don't know. This I haven't even gotten to that part yet in the book, and that's just how my kid brain is remembering it because that's how my kid brain
I'll have to
imagined
go
it,
back
but I
and
can't remember.
yeah, I'll have to go back and reread it, but I'll try to find it out of chapter 5 and send it to both of you in the chat. But
Yeah.
there was this line where the witch gets freed and she's just like, "Oh, this is amazing. Show me to your world, children. I'm
Mhm.
going to conquer it and make everyone my slaves." And I was like, "Oh my god, like
Yeah,
this
that's
is
right.
wild. This is wild." Like
I remember
it
being
was in that
terrified of her.
yes. Yeah, I'm a grown adult like
Yeah.
in my 30s and I was like, "Oh my god, this is freaky," you know?
Yeah.
Like
I
I think
remember
she
her being
grabs their
terrifying.
hair and
Yeah.
I'm like, "You bitch, let them go."
It's interesting because I kind of had the same thought about uh some lines or just descriptions of things or whatever affecting you even now and how it just
Yeah,
sort of feels cinematic even as like just
yeah,
a children's story. So when I got to the part where Uncle Andrew shows them the green and the yellow rings
the
and
rings,
there's like
yeah.
two sets of them or whatever,
Mhm.
it was weird. I got to the part I was like, oh yeah, that's right, they are green and yellow, and I was seeing them so clearly in my mind. I was sitting there thinking, it was like, I feel like I've seen them, like, not I don't
Ooh,
mean physically, but
yeah,
as far as I know, they are the how at least how I am still imagining them, which is how I imagined them when I first read the book.
yeah,
Uh, it's almost because when you reread, you're like, oh yeah, I remember how my brain imagined this character or this scene or
yeah.
this like how it looked. Um, it was so vivid to me that I was like, was it the way that I'm imagining it? Was it like how they look? Was it on a book cover? I know it's not. They never made that into a movie, into a live action movie,
Mhm.
so it can't be from that. And I was like, I don't think it was ever on a book cover that I like
Oh,
saw
but
how
you can like
I
see the green and
because
yellow ring like in your mind.
right, but how they look in my
Huh.
mind is so clear
Yeah,
that it's almost like I had to have seen almost like a picture of them somewhere or on the cover of one of
interesting.
the versions of the books or in a movie
Yeah.
or in a TV, but like a movie doesn't exist. Um, and I don't think it was a book cover. So, um, and I'm not imagining them in like some illustrated way. It's almost like it's there in front of me physically. So it's just weird how like those memories come back.
Huh.
Because I think I've read it. I think this would be like the third time I've read it now, and
Yeah.
just the descriptions of certain things has stuck so much in my mind that once I got to that part, it's like, oh yeah, I remember how my brain imagined these to look. So I'm almost
Huh.
confused. Like, if have I seen them before? But I haven't. There's no
Yeah.
way. Yeah, it's
I remember them
weird.
very vividly too, and I think of them as like they're both like jade, except one's yellow. Is like the
Oh,
way that I like
interesting.
think of them.
Mine, I've always
And
thought of like metal and more solid, like more not transparent,
opaque.
yes, thank you, opaque
Hmm.
than jade would be. It's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of things specifically from the Chronicles of Narnia. I think because it was like my first love of fantasy that I remember extremely vividly, even though like it's not tied to the movie. So like Lion, the Witch, and the
Right.
Wardrobe, like I imagine that's what the characters look like from the like kids movie and stuff.
Yeah.
But even like later throughout the series, there's a lot of parts that I remember very vividly. Like in The Magician's Nephew, when he cuts the edge of the pool and like takes that gouge out of it. Like I can
Mhm.
see that happening in my head.
Almost like you
Um,
watched it rather than
yeah.
imagined it or conjured it in your mind based on the description in the book. Yeah.
Mhm. I think about the magician's nephew a lot. I think because like it was the foundation for so much of my love for fantasy, like finding like ringing that bell and awakening that witch and
Yeah.
like what ends up going on with her. Um, and like the hint at the cataclysms that she's caused before. Uh,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
adult who has control over a situation because the kids were the ones that like discovered the thing. It was the first time I was introduced to any like ideas or tropes like that. So I think it
Yeah.
sneaks up in my like role playing and stuff too, in a really solid way.
Hmm.
Oh.
I
Let's say.
it's me, it's Jeremy Slut. Um, you know, uh Tolkien had such a
Yeah, I remember this. Sorry,
yeah,
like what you posted, I
oh
remember
oh yeah.
this.
I was just gonna say Tolkien had this way of writing when I was reading the first book that felt very visual to me.
Yeah.
Like I felt like when he was describing Hobbiton, like I felt like I could clearly imagine it. And I definitely feel that way with C.S. Lewis writing as well. That
Yeah.
paragraph that I put in the chat just felt like
It's such a
so
great description.
visual. Yeah, it really because it feels like this dead and dying world that's
Yeah.
so alien but kind of similar to ours. So it throws you off and puts you in that weird headspace.
Right.
And I was just like, it even though I guess they were marketed towards children, they don't feel like children's novels to me at all, just because
Yeah.
the quality of the writing,
Yep.
the the fact that the villain even scares me as like a
Yeah,
grown
the
adult,
scope of the
like
problems that they face.
Right.
Like when they first go into the woods in
yeah,
between the world, you're like, oh no. Like if
Yeah.
this isn't a
yeah,
Oh,
good place to be acting the way they're acting, like
right.
hmm
And you can definitely, if you've ever read any of C.S. Lewis's other writings, you can definitely tell
mm,
he is writing this for children because his other writings are a little bit more adult, even if not in like the
mm,
content, but like the the language, right? Just the way that it is written. It is
yeah,
written more to cater to an adult because it's written for an adult audience,
yeah,
who can understand that writing better than a child would. So, but he's
yeah,
written the way that he has written for children is like so much better than like most books written for children that are novels.
absolutely,
yeah.
Uh and that's one huge reason I've always loved it because even though yes it is for kids, uh it has never quite felt like that to me. There are no parts to me that like,
yeah,
oh, that felt like kind of cheesy. Well, makes sense because it's a kid's book, or that felt like just that just felt kind of there are some preteen or children's stories that you read, they're like, it's hard as an adult for me to kind of relate to that because I'm
yeah.
no longer a kid, and so I don't really quite understand. Even though yes, I was a kid, I don't really quite relate to that anymore.
Yeah, I feel like
But
it's usually
Yeah.
emotional turmoil or like
maybe the
romance
emotion,
turmoil. Like there's a lot of that
yes.
I'm just like
I
doesn't do it for
just
me.
I can't. Yeah, I don't get it anymore. Uh, but somehow even now, it's so easy to relate to. Uh, and the way he has written it is just accessible for
hmm
anyone at any age. So yeah.
Thomas, is there anything else like that that you read as a child that really stood out to you, where it was children's literature geared towards like little kids, but you remember it long after that you can think of?
So I'd see, because like Lord of the Rings is not geared towards children, in my
Mm-mm.
opinion. Certainly not. The
No.
language is too high.
A lot of kids have read it. Like a lot of people have read it when they were kids, but it's not
Yeah.
a children's series
I
for
think the
sure.
only thing that really stands out like that, and it might be because I moved on to more advanced reading so quickly. So like I didn't read a lot of like children's stuff. I read Chronicles of Narnia, and then I went to Lord of the Rings and Terry Brooks. Like I
Yeah.
moved very
Yeah.
quickly. But I did read Frank Peretti. Have you all ever heard of him? He was a Christian children's
I
writer.
don't think so.
No. Frank Peretti.
Are those the
Huh.
books I'm thinking of? No, I did read his books, but they're not the ones I'm thinking of. I wonder. I remember the title of one. Let me see. The Door and the Dragons. Oh, that was Frank Peretti. Okay, yeah. He wrote like a missionary Christian and his like single father and his son and daughter going on
Yeah.
adventures. And even
Huh.
though it was written for kids, like it didn't treat me, the reader, like a kid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
kids weren't ridiculous. They weren't doing silly things um, in their adventures, and it was very serious stuff that they were doing. And
Yeah.
also anything that made Christianity more exciting, I like hung on to when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, so I really enjoyed all of his books, and they had a profound effect on like how I view fantasy and religion
Yeah.
and finding magic in the world. So yeah,
Right.
that would be my example. I really enjoyed all of his books that I've read. I haven't read them in many, many years.
Interesting.
I think I read This Present Darkness like as an adult. And even that I would say is like a young adult's novel. Not necessarily for
Yeah.
kids, but like YA. But yeah, I really enjoyed his stuff. And it,
Yeah.
it didn't pander. Like the story was there. It was, I think it'd be intense for an adult to read too. I think you probably get different things out of it.
Yeah. Huh.
I'm trying to think of the what was the one book that I said I'm totally blanking on the title, which I guess is telling because I didn't like the book. But for basically the same reasons is why I didn't end up liking the book because it was clearly like a children's series.
Mm-hmm.
Um and you follow two kids and it's a fantasy.
Hmm.
I think it's like a brother and sister that you're as like the main characters. And they were just so silly, like too silly of like as kids
Oh,
that
okay.
it's just like I don't even like them and I can't relate to them in any way. And half of the stuff that they
Hansel and
think and
Gretel.
do is like too silly. And that was part of the reason that I didn't even like the book.
And I don't mean to
Um,
Mm.
be like to talk smack about writers because like
yeah,
there's a place for like young adult like young adult books,
sure.
but like I remember reading the Hunger Games and I got about halfway through the second book and I was like I just don't like how it's written. Like it's just not good to me. Like the story in the first one was very interesting and moved me through, but like you can't use the same word to describe something within 3 sentences. Like like as soon as I read that I'm
Yeah.
just like
I remember reading them and very much enjoying them like, when they came out and all that stuff. But I think if I went back to read them, I probably would not enjoy them. Um like I did when I first read them.
yeah, because once you get beyond the story, like if the
I
writing isn't there, then I think like
Yeah.
it'll your enjoyment of it will suffer for that. Like I
Yeah.
actually I was about to say Twilight, but I'm pretty sure if I was to reread Twilight, I'd just be like, I would love every moment of
I still don't know
it.
because I loved Twilight.
I did too. I ate that
Um
shit up.
and I have not reread them since like the movies came out, and then everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" and then everybody like collectively decided to hate Twilight at the same time.
Oh, we should reread
Uh,
those. We should
after the movie,
absolutely
so
reread
I
those.
have no clue how I would actually feel about them if I reread them, because I feel like, let's be honest, her writing is not great. Um, I think if I reread it, it would feel kind of the same as like, you keep reusing this word over and over and over and over. Stop reusing
Come
it.
on, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was to
I
reread it,
love
I'd still just be
your
like, Edward.
It may be true. I could see that. I could see me just going back to my like 6th grade self, like obsessing over it.
Funny, because Greg and I read them in high school, and we just talked about it the other day about like how it's so funny, like looking back and like, we really enjoyed these, but now it's almost like shameful.
Yeah. I don't like to tell people that I read them and also loved them.
I also read Host that she released a few years later, and I really enjoyed that.
I also read Host, and I also very much enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice.
When it
I've met
when
a
it
lot of
came
people that
out.
have read it, but not a lot of people who have liked it. So this is
Oh
exciting.
yeah, I liked it. I didn't like the movie, but I liked the
I
book.
didn't see it, but I really enjoyed the book.
The movie, I don't know, the movie just felt a little forced, I guess. Would be my
First word that came to my mind was gay. I don't know if that's appropriate.
It could be that too. Okay. I did enjoy the Host a lot though. I thought it was an interesting concept for
Yeah, like a peaceful takeover, more or less.
Yeah.
Like nobody had really I felt
Kinda.
like I hadn't seen that angle really done that way.
Yeah. I do I do at this point read books where I end up just getting annoyed by the main character. Like even if they're adults, where it's just like the author has just written them in such a way where it's like, you're just so annoying.
I get that in reverse. I'll read it and be
Ugh.
like, oh, I really enjoyed it for all of these reasons. And then
Yeah.
I'll get on Reddit and I'll be like, oh yeah, that character does suck when you start to analyze them.
So I have, yeah, I would say it's probably about 50-50 for me, where I'll read it and be like, it was a good book. I enjoyed it, or I really loved it, or this. And then, yes, I will read about it as like other people's thoughts about it. And you're like, when you put it like that, they were really annoying about this situation all the time. Sometimes though, there are, I feel like the character just keeps like thinking about the same thing over and over and over. It's just like worded in different ways, and it's like, can we like kind of move on?
Brandon Sanderson does that with Shalyn and Kaladin. There's a lot of hate online for those two characters, and I love them.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at it critically, you're like, yeah, like they do have like parts that I could see why a reader would like latch onto that. But
Yeah.
I'm also of the opinion that like, why do you watch entertainment to hate it? Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. I just want to enjoy the book. Sometimes I get annoyed here and there about things, but then I always hate it when I have just really enjoyed a book and then everybody's just like hating it online because they didn't like that the character wasn't a strong enough independent woman or something. I don't know. Like,
it's a good example. Yeah.
Okay.
I tend to avoid Reddit when it comes to like criticism of books, because Stephen King is one of my favorite authors. But if
Reddit
you go
hates
by
Stephen
what
King.
if you go by what Reddit says about Stephen King, my God, they're like, oh, this guy's trash. Why is he even writing it? And it's just like, I'm like, guys, he's been popular for how many decades now?
Decade, yeah. Like, I mean, there's kind of a reason.
I remember when I was younger, like trying to be like edgy, and I was like, I don't read Stephen King, and then I read a Stephen King book, and I was like, time out. I read Stephen King.
Yeah.
Wait a sec. It's good though. Yeah. That's what I don't get. Like, I just want to find media that looks interesting, watch or read it, or listen to it. And if I liked it, I liked it. If I didn't like it. I didn't like it. But yeah, I don't. That's why I never like to read. I just don't really like to read reviews of like books or movies or music or whatever, is because generally
Yeah.
like people are like going piece by piece of like, here's in the like the first quarter of the book the things that I really didn't like when this happened and this happened, this happened, and the character said this and did this, and they're like, I mean, I can see your points, and like some of them I can kind of agree with. I didn't think about it until I read your review, but yeah, I can
And
see you're
Yeah.
kind of right. But I just
there's
like,
got to be some type
if
of
I
saying
enjoyed
like,
it, I
don't
don't.
research what you love. Like,
Yeah, that's
Yep.
truly,
Yep.
yeah. I don't know. I don't read things
Mm.
or watch things to then sit there and pick them apart at the end of
Right.
it. It's like I
Right.
might have like pieces where it was like, I didn't really like love this part. I just thought it like
Hmm.
wasn't interesting or wasn't written like that well. But I mean,
Yeah.
generally, I'm probably gonna like it.
and I think the meters start skewed for online. I've got plenty of reasons that I despise social media and like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
activity of humanity online, but like a normal gauge is like green and red, and here in the middle is like where you start and it's normal, whereas the internet's like starts in red,
Yeah.
starts right here in red, only
And you
gets
have to
worse.
Yeah.
get
Like,
the author better convince me that it gets out of the red for whatever. Yeah, it's like I hate every
Yeah.
book before I even read it, and then you have to convince me
man,
to like it by the end.
I read
What?
a review about The Magicians, which is the one I was talking about by Liv Grossman. That's like this, like a Narnia concept, but modern day and for an adult reader. And
Yeah.
I was looking for recommendations of similar things, and I read somebody's scathing review of The Magicians. I remember reading it, and I was like, "Time out! I agree with all their points. Let me like actually think
Right.
about this." And I
Yeah.
went through it, and I was like, "I agree with all their points, but those are reasons I like it." Like they're
Mhm.
citing things that are actually there, but I think they're being frustrated by them as opposed to seeing the bigger picture, which is like all these people are
Mm.
ridiculous because they got magic and humans aren't
Yeah.
supposed to have magic because we're selfish.
Yeah.
Like they're like, the
Right.
characters don't grow in the way I'd like them to, and they never like they start assholes and they stay assholes. And I'm like,
Like sometimes
yeah,
that
they were
just
spoiled
is.
brats who got magic. Like, all of their
Don't.
growth and character development is just becoming less of
Yeah.
assholes. Like,
Don't watch Seinfeld. I don't know. Like there's
they didn't
literally.
enjoy Seinfeld either.
I'm sure they didn't like Seinfeld. There's
Great
zero growth.
point.
Don't watch Sunny because
Man, we should start some type
like
of blog that's like, hey, like in order for you to qualify here, like you have to enjoy these sitcoms. And if you don't get that humor, then we probably aren't gonna vibe.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's why like I feel like people I've talked to who just don't enjoy. Let's just take Seinfeld as an example because we brought it up, but uh, just like, but they're terrible people. They don't learn anything. We're like, well, I mean, that's literally the point of the show.
Or the people that
Yep.
say they don't like The Office because the characters make them cringe, and I'm
You're
like,
like, that's the
they're
point.
supposed to
That
make
is the
you
That is
cringe.
reason
the
to
That's
point
why
of
watch
The
it's
it.
Office.
funny.
That's why it's so funny. Yeah. There are
Or
a
my mom
couple
sitting me down
episodes
to
that
watch
are.
the Oscar outing episode. She's like, I want to watch this with you. And I was like, this is terrible, Mom. I love
Oh god. It's so funny though.
it.
Like
Yeah.
there are a couple episodes that are really cringy and they are genuinely hard to watch because they're so cringy, but that's also why they're so freaking funny. Like the dinner party
Exactly.
episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
that one is rough, but it's also hilarious.
Oh man.
Poor Michael Scott.
Or when Michael Scott goes to the elementary school or the high school where he had like promised them before, like 10 years before, that he would pay for their college because he was going to
Uh,
be a millionaire by 10 years later, and he has definitely not. He has to tell them all he can't pay for their college
gosh, what a
in
good
front of
episode.
the whole class. Scott
Oh
Stotts,
my
that's what
god.
it is. Scott Stotts.
What?
That one is super cringy too, but it's so funny.
Oh man. I have to go back and watch that.
Oh
What
my god, I
what's
love
that
The Office.
episode you guys are talking about? You guys like bonded over it. It's something like the dressy shirt or something on
Oh, the puffy
Seinfeld?
shirt.
Seinfeld puffy
Inside
shirt
The puffy
episode.
Seinfeld
shirt.
puffy
Yeah.
shirt.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's a fantastic episode because not only does it feature the puffy shirt, which is an
Yeah.
icon, it also features. It's also the episode where oh crap, is it who's dating her?
Something
It's
about the quiet
Kramer
talker.
is dating.
girlfriend. Yeah.
He's dating this girl who's is it the quiet talker or the soft
The low
talker?
talker.
The low talker.
Okay, low
Literally
talker.
this woman who like you can't hear anything she says the entire episode, and so Elaine and Jerry are like they go to dinner with Kramer and his new girlfriend, and they're just like the whole time like smiling and nodding, and oh my gosh, it's so funny. And that
I'm
gets
gonna look that
Jerry
up.
into a bad situation. Oh my gosh.
There's a low talker in our life. There's a lovely woman who works at the gas station down the street where we buy cigarettes. And she's a low talker. And like she doesn't know that like Justin
Oh.
and I are gay. She thinks we're like brothers or roommates. And like she still thinks I work at Starbucks because it's just not worth the effort to try to like communicate with her. And like she speaks perfect English. Like
She's just a low talker.
She's Indian, but like she's a low talker, and she's always so nice and so sweet. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I can't hear what the fuck jokes you're saying, but I love you.
I just smile and laugh though. It's a fantastic episode.
One of the things that was interesting to me about Seinfeld is there's continuity, which I feel is very rare in sitcoms. But I think there was like a 3 or 4 episode arc with like George and his toupee, and the fact that they made like a whole like story arc out of it just like made it even funnier.
There is. I mean, you can just kind of pick up any episode, but there
Mhm.
are little story arcs for sure. I mean, there's even George and I'm forgetting her name, but the girl
who dies.
The girl that I think he dates her, breaks up with her, she starts dating a woman, so he thinks that he made her a lesbian. And then they get back to and then he's like, I gotta do something with my life. I gotta get married. And so he runs to her apartment and proposes to her. So then they're engaged for like a whole season or whatever. And then he's like the entire time, like immediately after he gets engaged, he's trying to find a way to like break up or delay the wedding. And then he kills her. And then he has to like not like physically kills her, but he basically ends up killing her.
I was like, wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
And then
she would have totes survived.
He sets up this foundation with her parents to like, I don't remember what the foundation supports, but he still has to deal with her and her parent, like sort of deal with her after her death and her family.
Because he finds out she was rich and he doesn't get any of the money because they didn't marry, but they let him run the foundation with all the money that like they were going to give her at their wedding at the house they were going to like give to them, which is like a mansion in New York City.
So for so many like episodes and seasons, there's this whole arc about this one woman that George is involved with. It's so great.
Guys describing it has me laughing. Just you guys describing it is hilarious.
Funny.
And he keeps trying to get out of going to the like foundation meetings by coming up with like these ridiculous things that are happening that's like causing him to be late.
Yeah. And there are also little like little references that each of them will make to some minor thing that happened in like a previous episode.
Interesting.
But it's a minor thing. It's not some big plot point that happened in a previous episode that they're talking about. It's like some small thing that happened in one episode, and then like 2 episodes later, they like, or maybe an episode later, one of the characters references it. I wish I had a good example. But you can also see where they reference something in one episode, and then like an episode or 2 later, that thing happens that they referenced. And it's because they filmed it like out of order, and then they aired it. They filmed it at in some order, but then they aired the episode out of order to when they filmed it.
Oh.
So if you're binging Seinfeld, you can sort of catch those little moments where you're like, oh, that's
I'll
funny.
let you know. Justin and I watch it
Yeah.
pretty often. Like we watch it like not
Yeah.
daily, but like a few times a week.
Yeah.
My favorite thing that Seinfeld does is like the normal stuff that they talk about amidst their shenanigans. So like there's an episode where George and Kramer go to a liquor store because they're trying to get to a party where they have to bring a present. So they're going to buy them some alcohol, and they go outside, and somebody's double parked them in, and they're sitting there like all through the evening as it gets colder and colder in New York City, like trying to figure out like who's double parked them and get them to move their car. And Kramer just looks over at George and was like, nice shoes. Those look comfortable. And George is like, yeah, that's why I bought them. And Kramer's like, are they comfortable? And he's like, no, they're not. And like, I just love it. I love like real ass conversations like that. It shows like things that doesn't move the plot forward. It doesn't do anything. It's just there.
Oh man, those are great. Yeah, I wish I had a specific example for what I'm like referring to, but we haven't watched.
Yeah.
Like there was a few months ago, we were just sort of like watching through Seinfeld and then starting it over and watching it over again. But we haven't watched any episodes lately, so I don't have anything as an example. But they are typically just like little minor things. You eating your cheese, I love it. It's not like major plot points that they're referencing. Like I think there's even there's an episode where Jerry, I think it's again there he's going to some party or something and he's trying to pick up this like I think it's like a chocolate babka to bring.
The babka.
Or he steals it from the old lady who buys the last one, and he like literally takes it from her and runs away. She is also the same character in some other episode that they meet for another reason. And I don't remember what episode that is, but it's something like so minor. Like she's the same character. It's not like it's the same lady playing two different characters.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what the other episode is.
I wonder if it's the other episode with the babka, because they do that twice. Because they go to a party and they get a babka and he eats a black and white cookie and gets sick.
Oh yeah.
And there's another one too, and I think that's why he does that, is because of like his experience the first time, like going in there.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just so funny.
The Chinese restaurant they go to, that always gets bad service.
Yes. Then the one where it's like the whole episode is them waiting to be seated at the Chinese restaurant.
The whole episode. It's so good.
The Office did that too, where there was like continuity to it.
Yeah.
And like running jokes, ongoing jokes.
Yep.
I guess, yeah. Maybe that's just the hallmark of a well-written sitcom.
I think so.
I
think it is.
Interesting.
I mean,
I don't know.
Parks and Rec has it too, like with
oh yeah,
with Jerry or Terry, like all the names that they call, like his name changes.
Terry, yeah.
His name changes throughout the whole show.
He's always
gotta watch that show all the way through, because I've only seen like a season and a half, and it was so fucking hilarious.
Oh my gosh, the first like so the first season and then most of season 2, while they are funny, it doesn't really hit its stride until Rob Lowe and Adam Scott come in, which is like at the end.
See, I didn't even think I had seen where Rob Lowe was in, and I love Rob Lowe.
Okay. So those two show up at the end of season 2. So if you can make it to the end of season 2 where they show up, it hits its stride, and you got it like, and then from there, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
All right, I'll let you know. I don't know what it's streaming on. I'll look around.
I can't remember.
I loved all of it.
I love all of it. I will, whenever we decide to rewatch it, Bo always wants to just skip to season 3, and I'm like, no, I need to see all of it. I need the continuity.
Have you all watched oh my gosh, it just Schitt's Creek?
Yes, so good.
We watched Schitt's Creek.
I love Schitt's
when
Creek.
Griffin moved in, and damn, that show is so funny.
It's a great show. It's very funny.
Do you remember Parks and Rec I forgot the character's name, but like he invents his own board game and it's super complicated.
Yes, Adam Scott's character. He like comes up with his own board, but he was like I believe it was like he was a kid when he came up with it.
Yes.
And then they finally like release it as a real board game out into the world, and it becomes this like big thing.
It's so, and people are like playing it in the office.
It's hilarious.
This
What is it
weird,
called?
crazy board game. Quiggle or
Oh
something.
my god. No, it's
Quidditch?
something. Oh, it's something hilarious.
Yeah, what is it? Am I thinking of something from Harry Potter?
Tones of Dunshire. That's what it is.
Oh, that's right. I was way off.
That's such a good
Tones
name.
of Dunshire. I think it's supposed to sort of it's supposed to, if I remember, sort of be like a D&D, but on a board game. But I think there's also like, that's what it felt like to me, at least.
Really?
The
Really?
Cones of Dunshire. There's okay, time to start reading.
It's so funny though. Yeah.
Community from Dan Harmon has like
That's
2
also a good
episodes
one.
where they play Dungeons and Dragons. We totally have to watch those at some point. Oh, and thank you for recommending Strange Planet, because I had never heard of it before, and then I started checking
Love
out
Strange Planet.
the comic strip, and I was like, I had to send the one on the Star Damage.
It's so good.
As
Strange
soon as I
Planet's
found that,
amazing.
I freaking love Strange Planet.
Yeah, I started texting them out to like everyone I know. It's super
Yeah.
good.
Like, he's such an awesome dude too. Like, just like as a person, he just seems just genuinely awesome, and like he'd be really fun to hang out with and talk to.
Yeah.
So and then he's super creative and is really funny and has all these just awesome comics. But then there's like all these other little things that he does too, because he's
Oh,
not only
really?
does he write these comics, but he like draws everything. And like,
Oh.
not that I still have a Twitter, but I haven't used it in years, and I'm like not on Twitter at all. But
Do I have to
he
make a
will.
Twitter too now? Oh no.
I mean, you could if you want, but he will, even on his Instagram account where he posts all his Strange Planet comics, he will
Yeah.
he'll often have like screenshots of things that he's tweeted, and they're freaking
Oh.
hilarious. Like,
Oh, he's got a nice face. He looks like a nice
he
man.
does. He looks like a very kind person. Like, he just has a very nice face too.
Huh.
And it's funny because like a lot of the expressions that he gives the aliens, he has said like on more than one occasion, he just like takes pictures of his wife making funny faces.
Wait,
Like, but
what?
in like genuine face, she's not just like sitting there posing, but like just throughout life, like faces that she makes as she's like reacting to things or whatever. And that's like inspiration for the aliens, like facial expressions. It's hilarious. Let me see if I can. He used to do, I haven't seen him do it in a while, but he used to do this thing where he would just take a random picture out like in the world of whatever. It could be like, I don't know, in some shop in New York or whatever. It's got and he would like hide emojis in them and then post it on
What?
Instagram, and like in the caption he would be like, these are the emojis that are hidden in this picture. And so you can sit there and like zoom in on Instagram and like and find them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I haven't seen him
Interesting.
do that in a while, but just silly stuff like that. Oh, recently, the most recent thing like he's sort of released is that he has come up with for every, well, I don't know if he's quite done yet, but he's come up with for every all 50 states, he has sort of created like a little character out of the state, and you can like buy t-shirts with it. But Like it's on his Instagram page, but you can find like Ohio, the shirt pocket of the USA. And so like he's got a little drawing of the I don't even think you can see that, but yeah, you can't. Can you? Oh wait, yeah, there you go.
Wonderful.
So he draws the the US for every single one, and then you can see where Ohio is, and it looks like a little shirt pocket on a guy's shirt. or Missouri, lap cat of the USA. It looks like a little cat. It's just so cute. Like, anyway, he does he does like so much more than just those comics.
Sleeve
It's great.
tattoo of the USA, California.
I had no idea.
See if I can find like.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, I see the shirt.
Yeah, and you can buy whatever. I think what he's completed, you can buy.
That's amazing.
He will.
God. Thomas, I'm gonna post to the chat so you can see the shirt. It's so good.
New York is the backpack.
Yeah. Georgia is, I think it's the butt, like the peach butt of the USA, which is perfect because
the peach butt.
Yeah, I'd have to go find it. I think it's probably on the website, but like it's a t-shirt.
So
oh wait, no, sorry, back pocket. It's back pocket of the USA.
An ideal companion.
And it looks like if you see he's like sticking his butt out. See Georgia is like a backpack.
Oh, I see it now. I see it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Nice. I feel like people are probably getting hungry at this point.
I am hungry. Yes, that's true.
I didn't anticipate this meeting going this long, but it was super enjoyable. We covered I guess the word would be we covered the gamut. Is that the right phrase?
Gamut. We covered.
We did cover a lot. We did cover a lot.
Everything. Strange Planet, Seinfeld, C.S. Lewis, venting about work. So that was awesome.
Pennsylvania is the delicious hoagie of the USA.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them he sort of caters to like what that state is kind of sort of known for, but some of the other ones, like back pocket of the USA, doesn't have anything to do with Georgia, but
or does it?
Or does it? But it's just a lot of really awesome, creative, just funny little things like that. But he always has silly sort of musings on Twitter, like just random thoughts that he's had where it's just like, huh, that's funny. He's right.
I'm going to make a Twitter now just to follow that one guy.
That would be the only one.
One guy.
If I was even on Twitter, that would be the only one I'd look at. I only ever see what he actually puts on Instagram, but
nice.
It's great. Anyway.
Bye,
Friends.
Thomas. Bye,
Pick
Christy.
choices.
Bye.
Make the best choices.
I'm gonna go eat more cheese.
Eat more cheese.
I'll see one of you tomorrow. Bye.
That's true. Bye.